Welcome. I guess going to go ahead and do the introductions. We're here for the Immersive 360 Imagery, VR, and GIS, where integrations are delivering value to facilities management. This presentation will highlight a newer technology to the FM world, Immersive 360 Imagery, and tools available from camera technology platform provider Matterport. Immersive imagery allows the viewer to walk through the image and closely assess building space and objects or assets within it. One can tag assets in an image and assign a variety of attributes and hyperlinks. Immersive images or spaces, VR options, and tagged assets can all be integrated with other FM business systems. Our primary presenter, John Young, Senior Consultant Geospatial Services for Patrick Engineering. And Mr. Young is a geospatial solutions professional with 18 years experience applying GIS technologies to solve business challenges in property, facility, and asset management. Clients served include government, higher ed, and Fortune 500 companies. And he's going to allow a question answer session at the end. So no further ado.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And I feel like I can get a little bit of oxygen because it's not a Spark session where I have to get everything done in 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Holy criminy, this is easy, right? Well, you guys, it's just fantastic to be here and presenting to you some of the things that honestly have kind of been on my mind for a while. After a lot of years with Esri, which I left Esri about 2 years ago almost. You see a lot of technology, and you always want to know, where should I invest my time, my energy? Where are things really going into the future? And over the course of about the last year and a half, in addition to drone data capture and stuff like that, I've really spent a lot of time in this whole area of immersive 360 imagery. So I'm thrilled to share this with you and point out, who's actually starting to work with this and who we're working with and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And I knew my phone would go to sleep, but I'm going to try to start my little clock here so it keeps me honest. Here we go. All right, so I mentioned this in the Spark session, but we are an ECG, Engineering Construction Geospatial Company. We do work in 4 primary areas in our Geospatial Services group. My colleague Mike Goggin, who's going to talk later in the week, is going to be specifically talking, or tomorrow, is going to be talking about some of the things we do in our utilities practice, specifically electric utilities. But the focus of this one is definitely in the area of our facilities GIS solutions. We work with, I realized I didn't put this slide in the earlier Spark session, but we do work with a lot of universities. We do a wide range of things. We will build power generation systems. We will do transportation analyses, all kinds of stuff. But more recently, when it comes to a lot of the GIS work that we've actually done a lot for Ohio State, right here on the utility side, University of Cincinnati, Northwestern, and I'm just starting a complete campus GIS outside utilities indoor with High Point University, like presently right now. So, wide range of clients. Look, our big thing, having been at GIS, the game for a long time, is let's make this thing more simple. And honestly, this is kind of a piece of marketing branding in the clarity piece. But the more we sat there, we kind of like that. Let's get the whole clarity equation going so that when you're getting barraged with data and all those things that you feel like the floodgates are open all the time, that you can make heads or tails sense of it, and that that when you begin to integrate it, how it's not only going to help your stakeholders, but how you're going to care for it and feed it over the long term, and not have it be an exercise that increases your total cost of ownership, but helps you lower that total cost of ownership. So anyway, we do everything from strategic consulting to collection, implementation, integration, and managed services. I mentioned this earlier, but our mission when it comes to campus mapping in GIS, although we do serve a wide range of clients, but my mission is definitely focused in higher ed. On the other extreme, I do a lot with our existing core in industrial plant manufacturing. So there's a broad range, but the constant between those two is operations, okay? Whether I'm trying to make sure that universities have super student successful experiences, or whether or not we're talking about uptime in a power plant or a chemical plant, they're equally important. So we are all about solving these challenges. I mentioned this earlier when it comes to the value of our solutions, and really I'll let you just sort of take a look at this slide, and it'll be available with the presentation and the recording later on. But the real focus for today, and I think I tend to move around a lot, so let me see if I can actually get this out of here. Cool. The real focus is right here. It's going to be on how we help folks improve facility operations and training. So the use cases that I'm going to present to you in this presentation today and in the demonstrations I'm going to show will be very focused on that particular area. As far as how all this helps streamline data quality improvements and all that kind of stuff, you may have some questions on that, and I'm happy to answer those as well. All right, so when it comes to collecting additional data and integrating it with our systems, Immersive 360 imagery and tagging assets, that is going to add another layer to the equation, right? But it's also going to provide you, as you'll see, with options, capabilities to extract information from Immersive 360 to complement the sets of data that you're already trying to pull together to support your mission. And so that's where, like, one of a focus area for today is going to be this new Matterport system and the type of imagery it collects and the things that we can extract from it, but how we actually make it useful further, quote, downstream, okay? All right, so last cartoon, I think, because we really want to get into the show me stuff, right? This, like, as I mentioned, when we talk about fit-for-purpose applications, I will, as I'm running through things, take things on kind of like a use case by use case basis. Just know that the foundation for everything that we typically do is ArcGIS, although some of the integrations I'm going to show you are going to be directly with ArcGIS, an enterprise asset management system, okay, and/or one of the two, as well as other apps that just do calendar, that help you manage your calendar and your schedule, okay? Put this back up here because I don't think I'm going to run around as much. Okay. Took this picture earlier, so yeah, this is the show us moment, right? And then I'll get into the how-to. I figure we just go ahead and dive right into it. You're going to see a lot of integrations and things, and then we'll progress. So, one of the things that I did last night for kicks after my alarm went off, because I went to sleep at about 9:30 and I woke up at 11:10. Actually, I woke up before my alarm, thank goodness, because it was the soonest I could actually get downstairs and come down here and do a little bit of scanning, my Matterport camera, in which I'll start to bring that out, and we'll see it in the AR VR exhibit tomorrow night. But once you've scanned a space, and this is just sort of that some ooh and ah stuff for a moment, because there's a lot more to it than what you're seeing here. But it took me, I don't know, 35 minutes to scan all this space, and that was probably 56 positions. And then I spent not very much time at all tagging some booth locations, if you will, or I could tag assets. And so the tagging piece is actually pretty straightforward in the Matterport system. I'll talk a little bit about that in terms of how to in just a moment. But the real secret sauce I'll get into is then how do I take all this and wire it up with my other enterprise systems, because I think that's where you're going to get the longer term value, and where the proposition for training your staff is very helpful. So once you're in these experiences, you can navigate around. We're a Pin Bay reseller, so you do this, and you can drop videos in, and I better turn off the sound or you're going to hear from Stefan. How's that?
Stefan is a facility manager overseeing...
Oh my gosh, really? Stefan, that's enough. And so, I just did a couple little things where here I actually put an asset ID in there. You could actually put a hyperlink on that and flip that to another system, but I just did that for a little bit of fun. Let's do this though. Let's consider a few use cases. And how many of you guys, I'll just get a show of hands, how many of you guys are like working with the ArcGIS indoor stuff at all? Okay, a few of you. We're an early adopter partner for ArcGIS indoors. And I actually have been for a long time. I mean, honestly, myself and a few colleagues worked with the community of users 12 years ago to put together the first building interior space data model for GIS. And here we are, today. It's pretty awesome to see Esri actually coming out with a product for it. But so we took ArcGIS indoors, and just as a proof of concept, you're searching for rooms, you're searching for people. This is all straight ArcGIS indoors. And, yeah, I can scale floors, I can switch rooms, but one of the things that I typically want to do when I'm doing a space evaluation, an audit, or just simply seeing conference room space in this case is, jump into the room and immerse myself. And so there's the notion of I scan an entire building, or for security purposes, I scan a single space, okay? And I can answer questions about why that's appropriate. But, once you're there in that room, you can go into the space, interrogate the space. If there are assets that are tagged, you can provide information about those. I mean, when's the last time somebody said, call you up, how do I use this conference phone again? What's the deal with this system? Wouldn't it be nice, right, if you could provide that kind of solution, that kind of application? Let me see if this other one will not make me have to clear my browser. So let's try this. So same kind of app, integrating Matterport, except, and it's going to make me do that, which is fine, whatever. Sometimes I try to do it in the incognito mode, but even that does not cooperate. But that's okay. We're prepared for this kind of thing. So we'll clear that. It's a JavaScript kind of weird thing, but so we'll close that, and then we'll give this another roll. And what you'll see here, presto magic, please work. Yes, there we go. Is now it's not just integrating with ArcGIS Indoor's ability to help you look for spaces, but to actually look for assets, right? So here's a locator that's going to let you get down to an asset level. In this case, I'll just start typing LED. Okay, there's an LED TV. Where is that? Boom. It switched to the third floor, located the asset. And now, just like I did in the other app, I can now jump to that specific room. Now, I'll take the opportunity in this one to actually say, notice here, come on, give me my screen back. Whoops. I'm going to go back. The nice thing about it is you can set play buttons so that you don't fumble around like I'm doing right now, so that somebody can just navigate cleanly through, which I showed you in the very first one of the ballroom downstairs. But notice here, in 360, with 360 imagery, I can prevent you from walking, right? I can just say, I've navigated you to a room where an asset is. I could actually put you in the room since that's where this asset is. And you can see this notion of navigation halos. Most systems provide this kind of thing. But same symbology, connection point back. There's that LED TV. It's over in the GIS. It's over here in Matterport. I can connect it by unique ID, so I can ping back and forth. And I'll actually show you how we're doing that with an asset management system with actually TMA Systems. Web TMA is one that we work closely with. And so I could get the spec sheet and that kind of thing. Now, the other question that I get asked often when we're integrating with Matterport is, how do I maintain the currency of the information? And it's an absolutely fair question. How do I maintain the currency of those tagged assets and such? One of the tools that we do to maintain the currency is simply give you a flip back and forth. So you can do different things with tags to say, when was the last time the imagery was captured? And so then you can actually do an immediate change detection. I think in this case, let me just remember, okay, there's the conference phone, and if I go in here and I click, whoops. John, bring a mouse next time. All right. So I click that, and it'll pull up same room, load up. It's pretty fast. Here we go, over the Wi-Fi, and phone's gone, right? Back and forth, before and after. Okay. So that's a couple of uses that I wanted to show you very quickly inside utilizing ArcGIS Indoors. Then you can start to get into more workflow-oriented things. And so if I pick out, this goes back to the Esri UC, but I did do one story in here you'll find interesting that applies to this topic today. So, you may have interactive maps using ArcGIS Indoors. Here's that same map, right? One map, many uses. Interactive map. And, you know, there is the notion of obviously clicking on an asset and then jumping to that same information. This is the notion, though, when I'm working with Matterport that I think is important, where there's this idea of I want to relate the geography of the map to the geography of the image, because that's when it's a lot more meaningful. And so here, I can click on more info, and it's going to jump me in there from this map. What's really cool, though, is I'll show you, and I didn't want to mess, you guys ever use the Reflector app where it'll take your phone and show it on your screen? Sometimes it gets wonky with, you have to be network connected, and I didn't want to do it with the conference network. So let me back this up, and I'll just expand this. So in terms of facilities operations and training, one very realistic workflow when you're doing these integrations is to embed in a field app, because a lot of times you're sending folks in the field, as I'll get into the specific use cases in a moment. A lot of times the folks that are purchasing this kind of a solution have rooms and facilities that are not always accessible, okay? In other words, I can only get in there certain times a day, certain times a week, because of security issues or the sensitivity of the assets that are in the room. And so what you saw here is, and I'll grab this again, I clicked on the asset that was on my mobile device. I can see the attributes. I've cleaned this up since because those URLs are obnoxious. You can just create a bit.ly. It's pretty simple. And so now what I've done is I've jumped from the geography of that map into the Matterport experience, except now instead of having to start on the first floor or, you know, wherever you set your start of your tour or whatever, I literally go straight down into the geography of where that asset of the image. So now I'm there. The staff can click on that image. Here it's just a link to the operations guide or the warranty information or direct link back to whatever system of record. While I'm here, let's look for other assets that are thematically or symbolized based the same way I've got them in GIS, except now I've got HVAC equipment. There's the guide for my train, you know, my train air handler, or life safety equipment, right? And so, you know, you can use the same kind of conventions that you use to thematically render in GIS to thematically render in your Matterport experience. And then, by the way, we are in this, you know, larger Matterport scan, so I can actually go up to the next floor. Okay. So what you then saw was a contrast between scanning a whole building and how you go to the geography in the building to be able to navigate to see equipment versus scanning single rooms. And there's certainly different considerations, like I mentioned before, like security. The other thing then is, how do I take the same kind of view and then apply it to an operations dashboard? So here, and this is where we're actually working with, we're a preferred FM solution provider with Matterport because they got their start in real estate, right? Real estate, AEC, and now there's a select set of us that are working with their Matterport SDK to do things like, all right, so I isolated my repairs only. Let me zoom in a little bit. And I'll go back to that same humidifier, right? And when I click on the humidifier, you know, yeah, I can jump to a link from a call-out box, but the next thing we're going to be doing is passing the query and the filter to Matterport so that I then instantly go to the location of where that asset is right here, right? So now I have an interactive map, interactive immersive experience, and I can very quickly and easily interrogate my assets, whether it's work pre-planning, and again, I'm going to get the use cases in a minute, or conducting training exercises and the like. Okay, so I think that's a fun start to just jump in and start showing you some integrations. Let's back out for a moment. Let me do this and go back into the PowerPoint presentation. I guess I'll just keep holding this. Excuse me. So how do we do this stuff? And honestly, I wanted this presentation to be more educational than anything else. I'll tell you right now, I'm not here to sell Matterport cameras, even though Tomer Paran, who, Tomer, you're probably listening to this video, is their BD director. He's probably like, John, go. But here's the thing. They're cheap. Go buy one. These cameras are less than $4,000. Get into their cloud solution, start doing this stuff. What I'm interested in and why I'm a service provider is I'm all about the data. I want to integrate your data. I want to integrate you with other enterprise systems. So here's the deal. Go buy your camera, right? Get your subscription. You're all in with this thing, and for spaces and stuff for probably, I don't know, $4,500. right? It's not, and the subscription is maybe $100 a year. It's not very expensive. That's what makes it really nice. Now, I will tell you this: the only option you have for storing your data is in the Amazon cloud using their technology. There is no doing this behind your firewall. Just don't even ask. It's not for you if you can't do it. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Now, so then what do you do about security? You have to let applications control the security. And I'll get into how that works here in just a minute, although most of you are like, yep, been there, done that. The other thing that you really need, you got the camera, you got an iPad, you download the Matterport Capture app, you're good to go. And honestly, when you're doing the scanning, the Matterport, the iPad app talks directly to the Matterport camera. I'll show you guys this in the exhibition. It's super simple. I see colleagues in the room that have these. That says it's super simple. It's pretty darn simple. Can you train a couple of students up to do this? No problem. Exactly. So, of course, then the real thing is then what do I do with the data? I thought I would throw this in. It's probably the busiest slide I have, but I want you to know that Matterport, number one, will take all the positions that you scanned, you upload it in the cloud, their secret sauce is up there on their Amazon servers, and I mean literally, that scan I did last night was returned and sitting in my queue in an hour. Done. And you can do, I mean, what's the most like 50,000 square feet, 2 hours, and it's in there. It's kind of nice. But what are some of the things that I can do to post-process it with what's called a Matterport Workbench? And so you go in, you can do lots of different things, right? You can set up how you're going to view your data, where you're going to start from. Are you going to provide a navigable walkthrough? Am I going to extract 360 images? Am I going to extract still images? You can do all that stuff. Do I want to remove navigation halos because I don't want people to navigate to a certain spot? Do I want to create jump points, right? So in other words, geography of map with the geography of the image, you can create jump points so that you can make that relationship. Tagging assets, again, they provide the interface for doing that. And then here's the thing, right? If you want a VR link, they'll give you a VR link. You can put your headset on and you can hit the little blue breadcrumbs and go through there. But just show of hands, does anybody else get dizzy when they use the headsets? I'm going to tell you right now, I get dizzy. And honestly, a lot of people have been polled, and headsets probably aren't going to be around all that long. They may be for a very, very younger generation, but frankly, tabletop VR, like open right in front of you, is really the next iteration of VR that's probably going to become popular very quickly. So I would keep your eyes on that. The last thing is, what's nice is you can measure anything you want. It's 1% of reality, I think, within 1% of reality, so it's actually really accurate. And you can dimension stuff and measure it, and it'll save all your dimensions and measures, so you can go back in there and check that stuff out whenever you want to. So it's pretty nice. Okay, secret sauce. This is the fun part, right? This is what's meaningful to me. It's what's meaningful to our customers and our users, and I think perhaps to a lot of you, and this is the reason that you're here, is integrating with other enterprise systems. So, yeah, some of what I showed you was making connections, making links with basically web URL links. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. But then digging into more of a web service integration is really where the real secret sauce starts to come into the equation, things that are actually really useful. The other thing is when you're integrating, making sure that you can manage that scan space data currency, right, between the images. So these are all considerations as you're doing your integrations. Working with the Matterport SDK, the thing that they don't really allow you to do that we're doing is assigning unique IDs, because I want to pair up the unique ID over here to the asset that's over here in my asset management system, or my space ID, right? Because that's going to enable dynamic search, query, filter, navigation between the two systems, like in that operations dashboard that I showed you. And then, obviously, it supports updates between the two systems when I'm changing records about those assets, okay? I'm not going to get into all the details of it, but I'd be more than happy to really dig into it with you. But they have this thing called a MatterPack bundle, which gives you all kinds of data extracts from a space that you scan. So if you want a point cloud, if you want, which I will say this, you have to take the point cloud out to another system to create an LAS file that you can then bring into GIS if you're doing a GIS integration with the geodatabase. But it's there and it's available. And they will allow you to get floor plans. But I think the floor plan maximum is in batches of 25,000 square feet. So you just have to set up how you're going to scan your space in 25,000 square foot increments if your idea is to get schematic floor plans out of it. Okay. And then the other thing that we do, which is probably common for a lot of you folks that are in IT, is we do integrations at a database level, web service level, API level, because Matterport also has a nice API along with that SDK. Actually, it's fairly limited API right now, but it's getting better. Okay, perfect. All right, well then, with 5 minutes, I'll take 3 minutes so we have time for questions. And I think we're the last talk of the day, so maybe we can nudge that over just a little bit. So what about the use cases? I went through several things pretty quickly, but let's run through those for a moment. So we integrate with ArcGIS Indoors for facilities operations and training. Here are several of the use cases. So facility indoor visualization and training. Construction progress monitoring is more of an upstream thing. O&M pre-planning, so pre-planning for work before you actually physically go on site. And then doing, when you're doing on-site assessment and work fulfillment, being able to get to additional information from a really handy app right here on your iPad or your iPhone, right? Which is a very pleasing method of looking at the information, which tends to resonate pretty good with operators because touches and swipes are pretty straightforward. The other one then is Indoors for ArcGIS Indoors for facility space audit, asset inventory, and the like. This is directly integrated the way I showed you guys in the demonstration a minute ago, so I won't go too much into this, but you're definitely supporting the whole space and amenity search, locate, navigation, audits, and things like this. This is connecting with a calendar app. So this is like straight up client out in Sunnyvale, which I won't elaborate on too much, but had the need of integrating further with their conference planning applications. And so we've been working with them for that. The other one then is, we're a proud PinBay and Vision reseller and implementer. And so we've got it integrated with their system so that when you're working with their POIs, you can just jump right into Matterport straightforward. For things like space audit, asset inventory, but you can imagine the number of different uses. And then finally, I've been going to the TMA conference for 8 years. I always do their GIS workshops. I'm a big fan of their technology. So we did a web TMA integration where we took our GIS services, we integrated it with their asset management system, and we showed how you could do a whole workflow that could leverage the benefits of Matterport, and it went really well. In fact, we've got some nice contracts with the government that we're starting in a couple of weeks in DC to do exactly what you see here, and also with GIS, which is great. Finally, one last thing, Matterport scans anything. So you can actually scan the inside of things. You can see this is some of the work that we've done with OSU, just as an example. And like I said, my colleague will be talking more about that tomorrow. But if you want to inspect utility or water manholes, and actually when in utility manholes, get down to like the duct banks and the circuits and really understanding tagging assets there so that we can link to those diagrams or understand how I'm moving from this side of the duct bank to this side, circuit to circuit, and doing those pairings and like being able to look at that stuff without having to physically be there. Big deal, actually. You can do it. I'll just toggle this so you can see what it looks like. Started working with a guy, can't say enough about the hubcam guys and this thing they call the gibbet mount. So they actually have a great mount that allows you to, hold on a second. I know I'm running short on time, but this is pretty slick. So you can literally get into a manhole and you can see just how clear this is. Whoops. Got to find the right navigation point. And just step by step, you can go. Now I have a play button that does this so that you don't have to do the quirkiness that I'm doing right now. But I can keep going up the manhole progressively, right? And anything that's in there I can tag, but this is like the best I had for imagery that was representative. All right, so I think I'm almost at the end of my... So anyway, there's good applications in the utilities world as well, because anything that you can scan inside can be scanned, so Matterport supports that as well. Lastly, I'll just say a little bit about our partners. Esri, ArcGIS Indoors partner, Envision partner. We're actually a TMA partner now. I think with that, I will simply say, over in the PinBay Solutions booth, I've just completed the first of 2 papers. My colleague's got a paper tomorrow. And if you have very specific questions, you want to run the Matterport camera, you want to work with the workbench, I'm going to have all this stuff set up in the AR/VR exhibit tomorrow night. And with that, there's my extra happy picture, which I really don't like, but they use it anyway. I know, right? Thanks, you agree. My wife at least said, you look genuine right there, but I probably wouldn't use it, but you look genuine. Like, I'll take genuine. Anyway, what's up? What's going on? Oh, for sure. Yeah, in fact, NavViz, I was checking their stuff out. I'm going, I mean, so no, when I said I was starting to go in that swim lane of immersive 360, LiDAR capture, things like this, I like Matterport because I've got that image. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of the starting point. But if I'm going for like real VDC measurements and things like that, I'm probably going to use a little bit different tool. Yep. You do, but you can't immerse yourself. I've seen the Rico stuff, and I have to go from still position to still position. I think what really changed the game for me personally, and when I was sitting down with clients and going, look, if I tag these assets, can you use it in an operational picture, right? And for training purposes, and like, yeah. So. Yes. For sure. And so you actually touched upon another really important point that I was talking to Marin, right? Marin? Is that your name? Mark. Sorry, Mark. I was talking to Mark at NavViz about this, and I said, you know, what's nice is that there are other options that capture the data faster, right? Because, you know, tops one day with one camera, if I have to do the whole building continuous, 40,000 square feet would be lucky. Whereas with one of these cameras, I could probably do 40,000 square feet in an hour, right? Now, there's a give and take. Then I got to post-process a lot of the data, and I have to go through a few more hoops. But, you know, good point, though. Thank you.
You can measure off of the imagery.
Absolutely.
Not just mark it up, actually measure it.
Yeah, you can measure, and then the measures persist, and then you can choose when to delete them.
And is there an option that you can, does it always create the capture the point cloud, or is there just an image-only option?
So it always captures the image, and then it's your option to download the point cloud in this thing they call the Matter Pack bundle. It's always that option. Well, that option, frankly, became 100% enabled for all spaces captured after December 13th of last year, I think it was. Yeah. I found that out the hard way. But they were good. They actually said, all right, you captured this 1 month before December 13th. We'll give you the point cloud. I was like, you guys are cool. Thank you. And by the way, it only cost $49. I was like, sign me up.
Do they have other services to process that data into other files?
That's a good question. No, you're going to do that yourself. However, they do, because it's big in real estate, they export directly from their workbench into realtor.com. They also export directly into Google Street View. Because, right, you get it to the side of the business, and you've actually paid your dollars for your ads, and now I want to walk directly into your restaurant. Well, that's a big business for Matterport service providers, is scanning restaurants and stuff like that, venues and things like that.
Any more questions?
Awesome. Well, thanks, you guys. We'll be there at the exhibit. Appreciate your time.